Hi, everyone. I wanted to make a video on the topic of telepathy. And actually, this is my second video I made on this topic. The first one I was about ready to post. And then I had another experience with telepathy, which I wanted to share with you. So I thought I would start the video over, just redo it, and discuss this way of communication. So stay tuned because I'm going to go through the various ways that we communicate. Well, telepathy is communication, right? Without words and without physical presence. So we communicate at the level of another level or using our sixth sense. So it's considered mind to mind communication. And there are various ways in which communication can happen, telepathy can happen. And at the end, I'm going to share what I consider one of the most valuable ways to communicate. And I call it, and I'm sure that it's out there as a common phrase of soul communication and what benefits we can gain from accessing our natural ability to communicate without words or physical presence. So, let's begin with this understanding of telepathy as a way to communicate. So, telepathic communication is another way that it's called. And I've been hearing a lot about this podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. And I was listening just a little bit to it, and it's a documentary or a series studying autistic children and how they have proven that they are communicating with their usually their mother, without using words. And that was sort of a start of a lot of people talking more about telepathy. But I realized, well, telepathy is really what I call spiritual communication, right? So I receive messages through dreams and visions and channeled writing, which is all communication without words, right? Mind to mind. It happens at the level of consciousness. And that is, in and of itself, valuable. But let's talk about the ways in which we communicate and how telepathy shows up for us in our expression in the world. One of the ways that it can happen is through, let's say, thoughts. So if you're, if we're in a different state and I say, okay, let's practice telepathy, and I concentrate on a thought, and my intention is to share with you that thought, and then you pick up that signal and you say, were you thinking about? And then you tell me the thought. I'm like, yes, I was thinking about that. And what a fun thing. What a fun way to discover an aspect of our spiritual essence. In other words, we don't have to use our 3D five senses to communicate. We can communicate through another sense. So, thought is a way that it can occur, but also let's talk about images, right? So, and images can be used also in dreams. So if I say, okay, I'm going to concentrate on an object and I want you to tell me what I am seeing in my mind's eye. And let's say I imagine that I'm seeing a pineapple and all the aspects of a pineapple. And I'm trying to communicate that pineapple with you. And you pick it up and you go, oh, I'm seeing a pineapple in my mind's eye. Okay, so that's another way that we can communicate. So, one other way that the communication can happen is through emotional, let's call it emotional empathy. So, that would be if I'm, sitting in my place and I suddenly feel really sad. I don't know why I feel sad. Like there's nothing going on that would cause like a sadness coming up in me, but I'm suddenly feeling sad. And then you call me and say, hey, I've just been having a rough morning. And I say, well, I know because I was feeling your feelings and picking up the frequency of what you're sending out, right? Energetically. And I am literally like feeling it within my own system. So that is another form of telepathy, how we can communicate with one another where we are. So the emotional empathy, or actually feeling emotion, is, it is a form of telepathy. But also, let's talk about the observing of emotion. So this has happened to me, particularly this one, when I'm tapping into someone and I don't feel the emotion necessarily, but I have an awareness of what that emotion is. So an example would be, let's say I'm talking to somebody and they seem perfectly happy or whatever. And then I leave and I go, that one particular incident, I actually had a dream. And in this dream, I'm with this very same person. Yet the person is behind closed doors and I can hear them sobbing. And so when I woke from that dream, I realized, oh, this person is really in a grief, in a state of grief. So I reached out and said, when we were talking, you seemed fine, but then I had a dream that you weren't fine and that you were actually heartbroken and experiencing this deep sense of loss. And they said, yes, I was. So it really helps us tune in to people or others or situations where we can really access what's really going on underneath the surface of things. Okay, so I wrote some notes too. Um, yeah, and so the other way, of course, is telepathic communication. I mentioned through dreams. So dreams can give you awarenesses of situations, what's really going on underneath what we might see or sense with our five senses. Okay, so beautiful, right? Just a wonderful way of communicating. And at the end, I'm going to talk about the soul communication. Okay, so stay tuned for that. But I just wanted to sort of go through so you can recognize when you are in a telepathic communication situation, where you're using that ability. And we'll talk about the benefits of it too. Now, how you can know or feel, sense that this is a telepathic communication. There are some particular things that go along with it that I've discovered and I'm checking my notes, in my own awareness. So the feelings are um, oftentimes like a aha moment, like of course. It's something like I knew that deep down, and now it's just coming to my awareness. The other emotion is it can be very peaceful, even if it's momentarily peaceful, just for a second. When you have a knowing or an awareness that it's just like, oh, yeah, I know this, there's a peace that comes with it. But also, not but, and there is a feeling of no question. Even if it's just for a second before your mind starts questioning and doubting, it, and there's no questions and there's no doubt. So aren't those feelings great, right? That so we can see the benefit of telepathic communication. um, okay, so how do we usually communicate this way? How does telepathic communication usually happen? So we can think about meditation. I don't officially have a meditation practice, but I every day sit in quiet and just ask, what am I to know right now? What does my soul want to communicate with me right now? What is my higher self, God source, whatever you call it? And so that is actually a form of communication, right? So you can get a sense, you can get an image, you can get a thought. So meditation is very often a common way that we do it. We can through dreams, absolutely, uh, through channeling. We're connecting to the higher beings, the beings that are in the state of awareness of pure love or oneness or unity, and they can perceive actually still in our human experience. And so connecting to them through telepathic um, communication. Now, some people do channeling through channel writing, channel audio. Channeling is also considered part of our dreams. Okay. So that's another way. We can hear about this type of telepathic communication in near death experiences. If you ever listen to any of those accounts, they will say it's telepathic, like no words were spoken, but I was just receiving all this information. So I want to bring up the soul idea, soul connection, soul communication. So this has happened often with me. Is this, you might have heard about it like a download. It's not a thought, not an image, not a story that you get in a dream. It is a fully formed concept or idea, and it just comes to you. It's a complete knowing. And oftentimes what'll happen is you just know it, and you can know a, a lot of information all at once, and it's not an intellectual sorting out and discussing and thinking. It's just knowing, and it's depth, like you know a lot of things. And then you go to express it and have to use words, you're having a, a really difficult time finding words to express this complete idea, this complete knowing. It's like taking a whole thing and then trying to piece it together to explain it to someone else. So this type of soul communication is it, it's incredibly useful for us. So let's talk about some of the benefits of telepathic communication. So the benefits are number one, it's beyond our intellect. And thank goodness, because our intellect can only understand so much. In fact, sometimes you can have this telepathic communication and you understand it on a soul level, but then your mind can't catch up. Your mind actually feels confused, but inside you already know it. So the bypassing of the intellect, it's like if, let's say, you've only learned, math until up until the eighth grade or something, and the intellect is only conditioned to know and learn that much. And then you get the whole secrets of the universe, which is very, let's say, complicated mathematical equation, and you just know it. So you've bypassed the intellect into a knowing state. So you don't have to go through all that learning, let's say, all those years of learning, you just boop, know it. So bypassing the intellect is a wonderful benefit. The other benefit that's helpful is it bypasses misperceptions or interpretations that are also done through the intellectual process. And our perceptions and interpretations come from our past experiences and our emotions that we're still holding on to with these past experiences. So let's say I'm trying to communicate with you by using the symbol of a pineapple. And that symbol to me means Hawaii. So I have an association with a pineapple meaning Hawaii. And let's say I had an experience of Hawaii and it was so beautiful. And so to me, imagining a pineapple and sharing that communication with you, I'm trying to share this idea of, beauty and peace and all of that. And let's say that you associate a pineapple with, like, you had a rotten pineapple when you were little and you got really, really sick. And so you receive that image of the pineapple, and then you start to feel something different than I'm trying to communicate. Okay. So that type of imagery can be a little bit challenging to do a proper communication. So we're really clear, like the telephone game, where if I start with one thing and then you end up with another, or I use words and those words mean something different to you, I'm actually trying to communicate one concept and you're receiving it in a different way. So we have a miscommunication. a soul connection or a soul communication bypasses even those ways like symbols of, imagery and things like that, because it is a complete knowing that doesn't have to do with anything within our human experience. So we bypass that whole messiness, and we just, our soul is communicating with us and just knowing something, and then we take it in and we know it. And it's a nice way to go around any of our misperceptions or misunderstandings that can happen. And that's a beautiful thing because it's a direct link to something that we can know, and it doesn't get all caught in a web of confusing ideas and, uh, let's say, unhealed emotions. Let's say it that way. So the clarity that we can gain with soul communication is beautiful. It's wonderful, and we can use that in our everyday life for actual, for actual help. Like, how do we manage this situation or this, this problem or something like that? So the other thing is it connects us to our true nature, let's say. So soul communication through, telepathic soul communication connects us to our true nature, all the aspects that are who we really are, which we can really forget in the human experience. And when we have a soul connection, we automatically like plug in. It's like, oh, there we are. I am that. It is me. And that connection of, direct line where we are touching the energy of our soul. And in that, when we're touching the energy of our soul, it just infiltrates into our human experience. And that also is, like taking leaps on our spiritual journey to recognizing who we really are. Now, the dream I had recently that I wanted to add to this teaching is, in the dream, I was experiencing something where I got to know what was really, really, really going on in a few people. There were a few people that were used in this dream to give me insights into their true feelings, their true conflicts, their, where they're, so it took away all of these. So there were some situations that this dream used these particular symbols where their behaviors or what happened appeared to be one way. And then in the dream, I met them like a few months later, and they were sharing with me what was really true, what was really going on with them. And it wasn't anything that I thought or that I understood. It was a complete like 180 about what I really thought they were going through or what their intentions were. And in the dream, I was startled. I was like, oh, really? Wow. I had no idea. And the insights that were given to me were kind of like they weren't horrible. It wasn't like I was shown something horrible. I was shown something heartfelt. And I think that we see a lot of protection going on in the world, especially in our relationships, where you can't seem to get past the armor because there's so much intense emotions going on. And the behaviors are trying to match their, trying to protect. But in this dream, I went past all of that, and I saw what they were struggling with. I saw what their emotions, or I felt what their emotions were. I understood why they were feeling that way, more so maybe even that they understood, and where it was coming from, and all of it. And it gave me a sense of kind of grounding I understand. I understand now. And it was in a way healing, in a way it was healing for me to move on, because complete understanding helps us to complete something, and then move on, then move forward, because there's no more confusion. And I love that understanding or idea of telepathic communication and its benefits and what it can offer us. It wasn't a download. It wasn't like understanding the whole thing of the universe and things like that. And also you hear those a lot in NDE experiences. This was a soul to soul. This was a person to person exchange in our relationships where, a few people were given to me of some past experiences. And then I could see, oh, this is how you were really feeling. This is what you were really hoping for. This is why you were acting the way that you were acting. And I know I knew that at some level. I mean, I've definitely gotten this so many times in my dreams, but because I was doing the telepathic video, I was like, oh, I get it. I get it now. I get why we're doing that. I get what the benefits are of that. Now, for me, it happened in a dream. I love dreams because they take away my defenses, but I also can very easily get it if my intention is to be open to receiving. I can get it while I'm walking in the woods or while I'm just being quiet, where I'm just kind of centering into myself and just asking, what is it that is important for me to know? Something like that. It doesn't have to be, a big, grand hour-long meditation. It also taught me, that dream last night taught me that we're so afraid sometimes to receive information because we think it's going to be hurtful. We think it's going to hurt us more than we're already hurting. And what the dream was showing me was it's actually quite the opposite, because what we perceive and what we think is going on hurts us and devastates us. And when we can see below the surface of everything and really get to the heart of the matter, it's healing. And there's a peace that comes with that understanding. And so to be open to it and say, okay, I'm ready to know, what would you like to share? Whether it's before meditation, whether it's before dreams, before you go to sleep at night, whether it's when you just bring somebody to mind. And let's say you bring somebody to mind and you're feeling a lot of the emotions of that exchange or relationship, or the person, and just put that aside and go deeper. What is it that I can know right now? What is it I'm ready to know right now? I trust that whatever's given to me will be helpful to restore peace, to restore love, to restore grounding and a sense of stability, and to be able to move forward in a way that is serving my soul. So I think that's all I was going to share with you on this particular one. I hope that you found it helpful, and I hope that this encourages you to use your natural abilities to communicate in this way, because in essence, it is better. It's a better form of communication than to try to use our words, or try to explain, or, we just think of communication as, well, I have to talk. I have to actually use words to convey what it is. And then they have to use words to convey where they're coming from. And there's so many pitfalls to that, that to find we have another ability and a different way to communicate, and one that gives us more and better and more clear information, that's a beautiful thing, right? So you were taught you had five senses, and you had to use those five senses to determine what is your world and what your world is communicating to you. And then you have to use that to communicate back. And now we find out, oh, wait, we have another sense. We have a sixth sense. We have a way to communicate that's far better than what we were taught. to use or to use in the world to connect. So communication is connection, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect. We're trying to join with another person, and we're trying to, or even things in our world, and we're trying to make that connection because that is essential to our soul, because that is a condition of our true essence, which is unity. So as we try to make that connection, there's oftentimes a disconnect because of all these pitfalls that I've already talked about. So when we exercise our telepathic abilities, especially we'll say soul telepathic abilities, connecting soul to soul, we get better information, we get clearer information, and we actually feel connected. And I think looking back on all of my experiences, that's what brought me the peace, was the feeling of connection. So when I called that person to say, "Hey, I saw you and you didn't seem upset, but then I had this dream that you were grieving," and they said, "Yes, I was." I felt connected in the dream, and then when I woke up, I felt connected because I felt connected not to the covering that they were showing me, not to their words or what they were, talking about, but I felt connected to a deeper part of them. So I would love to hear your experiences. If you feel you can share in the comments, because I think this is happening to all of us. And I think the more we share it, the more open we are about it, the more we value it, the more it will happen. So namaste, everyone. Take care of yourself.